Hey everyone, I just want to make a quick video on why you should be running Zaborg and Extra Deck Monarchs. So, there's already been some use of it in pro play at St. Louis, you can see in the deck lists, as well as some pro players and good players have been talking about using it. So, the first thing to note about Zaborg is how you'd be playing it. So, the best, simplest play that you would be doing with it is tribute summoning. This would be turn 1, tribute summoning Ether and having return. So you tribute summon the Ether with return up, special Ether, send Pantheism Prime, search Zaborg. You banish the Pantheism from the grave, search for Tenacity, reveal the same Zaborg, get Escalation that you only run one of, and then you set the Escalation, Ether bounce back to the end, and when your opponent turn comes on their main phase, you tribute the Ether, summon Zaborg, pop it, and then hit their extra deck. Now, you are losing a monster, and in some matchups that might not be what you want to do, but in the matchup that it is good against, it absolutely destroys. So the matchups it is good against is Extra Deck Monarchs, BA, and Pendulum. And this applies to all like variants of those three decks. So against Extra Deck Monarchs, you would be hitting their Seraphonite, their Instant Fusion targets, their Sulkin, and any rank 5 Gaia Charger, but not Volcasaurus, because they can just Erebus it back. But in doing so, you hinder their toolbox, so they're more or less playing regular Monarchs, but unfortunately, they're playing regular Monarchs with Brilliant Fusion and Instant Fusion in their deck. So imagine if you were playing Domain Monarchs last format, and you just had Instant Fusions in your deck with no cards in your extra deck. Like, what the fuck are you doing, guy? Like, is it like, it completely blanks cards in their deck, and makes almost 1/4 of their deck actually unplayable. So it'll increase the chances of them bricking, which if they're bricking and you're not, you should be winning. Against any BA deck, if you can get it off turn 1, hitting their Dantes and the rank 3s in the extra deck, basically leave the deck at one of the lowest power levels of the game right now. Because if BA can't make Dante and other extra deck cards, they're essentially just okay floaters. So you're basically Winter Reaping your opponent, but instead of running Winter Reaper, you are running a searchable version of it that also hits other cards in their extra deck. So against BA decks, it completely destroys them turn 1, and later on in the game it does get objectively worse, but you can still hit cards in their extra deck like Zaborg, like Beatrice, like other rank 3s, like F-Zero if you're scared of that, like Purple Dante. So against BA it's really good, it really lowers the power level of the Burning Abyss deck. And then, lastly, against the Pendulum deck, you already have a kind of rough matchup because you can't floodgate them out like you used to with Domain, but Zaborg allows you to hit almost all of their threats, because again, the main deck of the Pendulum deck isn't really that strong, it's more so on what they can make. So it's consistent to some extent, but there's no actual power in the main deck. It's actually just a lot of vanilla monsters, which sucks. But the cards you'd be hitting in the extra deck against Pendulum would be Vortex Dragon, Ignister, the Fusion, so Nodin, the Draco Slayer Fusion. You'd be hitting Utopia so they couldn't get lightning out on you, that you'd be hitting the Dwellers so they can't Dweller you, and you'd be hitting Emerald so they can't recycle any of this stuff back. So, again, similar to the BA deck, you'd be destroying the power of it at the cost of destroying your own monsters. So, in terms of card advantage, it isn't like an optimal play, but what it's doing to the decks is extremely powerful, because it basically takes what makes these strategies powerful and throws it out a window. So those are the decks it's strong against. Another cool aspect of the card is by running Zaborg, you get to send your own cards from your extra deck to grave, and there are certain cards you won't be going into against certain matchups, especially game 1, so you can throw some things away. You can also send Omega, and ciphering Lord Omega's graveyard effect is really good in a lot of instances. In terms of for using your own resources, you can shuffle it back and Karaz engrave to Ether again in case you run out of Karazes. You can Omega back the shitty card in your 3-1 engine, so like you can Omega back the Garnet if you still have a Brilliant Fusion you can play. You can Omega back a Tekken Tomboard if you still have a Speedway Terratop you want a special. You can Omega back an Eidos if you want to normal an idea and get its effect to summon, you know. You can also shuffle back Monarch's Bone Trap so you can normal a big Monarch and get their effect, or if you need to search like a one of like Escalation or Domain or something like that. So those are the self uses that are really good about it. Omega also offers the ability of shuffling your opponent's cards back to their deck. So you also get to mess around with your opponent's Pantheisms and Primes in the mirror, as well as their Eidoses and their ideas. Another thing is against, more specifically, PK Fire, because against regular DA this isn't as good of a strategy, but against PK Fire, you can hit the Phantom Knights engrave and you can hit the trap cards engrave so that they can't get more special summons, more plays in this round. So you're basically restricting your power even more so. Not only did you hit the shit out of their extra deck, you also can mess around with their graveyard too. So that's very useful in that regard. The only con with this is Zaborg's really weak against rogue decks, Cosmo, Demise decks, and if you don't escalate the Zaborg, you just normal summon it, it's a really bad play to get it Veilered, but at the same time you can just Ether it away, so it's not the worst thing. Basically, Zaborg is really good against what is expected to be prevalent decks, because the prevalent decks being Extra Deck Monarchs because it's so powerful, it just lacks consistency, and BA because it's so consistent, just doesn't have as much power, but because it's so consistent, it's one of the reasons why it won YCS Providence. So that's my video on why you should run Zaborg the Mega Monarch, one copy of it and one copy of Escalation in a Monarch deck. It's pretty fucking good, and yeah, any sort of feedback in the comments is appreciated, specifically about the video format, if you guys like the music playing in the background. Sorry about the static on my mic, and yeah, have a good one.